Imagine descending into your own basement and not seeing the sun again for 20 years. This isn't a horror movie. This actually happened. The nightmare begins in a quiet town in Austria. A family sits at the dinner table. Standard night, right? Wrong. 17-year-old Sarah finishes her meal, stands up, and casually tells her father, Don, that she's heading out late. Don snaps. Out late for what? Sarah defies him. It's a party, Dad. Mom's known for a week. Don slams the door on the conversation. No way, final decision. Furious, Sarah storms to her room, but she isn't staying. She cracks open her window and climbs out into the dark. Her boyfriend, Chris, is waiting on his motorcycle. The engine roars and they escape into the night. Back home, Sarah's mother feels guilty and goes to her room to make peace. She knocks. No answer. Don joins her, pounding on the door. Nothing. Don pulls out a master key, unlocks the door, and looks inside. The window is wide open. She tricked them. Meanwhile, Sarah is living her best life at the party, completely oblivious. Hours later, Chris drops her off in the backyard. She creeps toward her window to slip back inside, but freezes. Don is standing right there in the dark. Use the front door like a normal person, he growls. Sarah glares at him. The second I turn 18, I am leaving this house forever. Don explodes. As long as you live under my roof, you obey my rules. Sarah shoves past him and locks herself in her room. Later, her mother and grandmother try to calm her down. Sarah is trembling with rage. He's insane. On my 18th birthday, I'm out. Her grandmother sighs. You always say that. Do you actually have a plan? Sarah smiles faintly. Of course I do. I'm traveling the world. First stop, Florida. Her grandmother gives in. I can't stop you. Just promise to call me. But outside the door, Don is listening to every single word. His face turns cold. He turns around and walks down to the dark storage basement. Standing in the damp basement, Don looks around. He remembers it. The secret room hidden behind the concrete wall. He opens the heavy door, stares into the pitch black, plots his next move, and locks it back up. He sits on the couch, waiting. A few days later, the clock strikes. Sarah is finally 18. Sarah is ecstatic, pacing her room, on the phone with Chris, debating whether to book a boat or a plane. Suddenly, Don walks in. Sarah, come downstairs. Help me carry this heavy box to the storage room. Suspecting nothing, she agrees. They lift the box and head down into the dark, cramped basement. Sarah looks around. Wow, there's a lot of junk down here. Don mutters, let's take it deeper inside. He swings open a hidden, heavy concrete door. Sarah's eyes widen. She's never seen this hidden bunker before. She steps inside, completely unaware of the trap. What is this place, Dad? Don smiles coldly. An old wartime bunker built by the king. Now go put that box in the far corner. The moment her back is turned, Don springs backward. Slam. The massive door locks shut. Sarah runs to the door, laughing nervously, pounding on the steel. Stop joking, Dad. Open up. But Don doesn't care. He walks away. Terrified, Sarah runs to the box and rips it open. Inside are all her clothes and belongings. Don had planned this for weeks. Panic turns into pure terror. She screams, but it's useless. The bunker is completely soundproof. Nobody can hear her. Desperate, she punches random codes into the electronic keypad. Wrong code. The system glitches and the lights cut out. Total blackness. Upstairs, Don calmly locks the basement grid and covers the entrance. Night falls, and upstairs, Sarah's mother and sister are frantically calling her friends. Sarah has vanished into thin air. Day 1 turns to day 2. Inside the black bunker, Sarah screams until her throat bleeds. Every time she touches the keypad and enters the wrong code 3 times, the power resets, plunging her back into darkness. 3 days of psychological torture pass. On the 4th day, she hears heavy footsteps. Don is coming down. She hides behind the concrete wall. The heavy door clicks open. Don steps inside. Boom. Sarah shoves him with all her might and sprints out into the hallway. Freedom is just steps away, but her heart drops. There is a second steel door, another combination lock. She bangs on it, screaming for her life, but it's hopeless. Dawn recovers, lunges forward, grabs her by the hair, and drags her screaming back into the cell. Sobbing, she gasps, "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" Dawn looks down at her coldly. Life is about actions and reactions. You chose disrespect. This is your reality now. Sarah suffocates in the thick air. There's no oxygen here. I'm going to die. Dawn smiles grimly. The air vents only open when I want them to. If you need food or water, I'll bring it. If I feel like it, everything in here has a price. Don steps closer, a sickening look in his eyes. Sarah recoils in horror as the monster attacks and assaults his own daughter. Days later, Sarah's mother is at the police station crying. The detective shrugs it off. "Look, lady, she just turned 18. She wanted to leave, so she left. I've seen this for 20 years. She'll come back when she runs out of money." A few days later, Chris knocks on the front door, desperate for answers. Don opens it with a calm, fake smile. "Oh, Chris, Sarah left on a trip with a friend. She's gone." Don is completely erasing her existence, forcing Chris to give up the search. Don adds a chilling final lie. "Don't worry, when she calls us, I'll tell her you asked about her." Chris leaves, defeated. Day 21 in the abyss. The bunker lights flash on. Don walks in carrying a birthday cake and a bright red dress. "Happy birthday, Sarah. Put the dress on." She puts on the dress, numb to the world. Don smiles. "Ask for anything and I'll get it for you." Sarah looks him in the eyes. "I want to leave." Don's face darkens. "Too early for that. Ask for something else." She whispers, "A watch." Don leans in closer. "Remember, everything has a price." After another horrific assault, he hands her the watch. Day 38. Sarah is eating her meager rations when she notices the sharp, jagged metal lid of the food container. A weapon. She sharpens it and waits. A few days later, she hears the door unlock. She's wearing the red dress, her hands trembling behind her back, clutching the shard of metal. Don steps inside. SHELUNGES. She drives the weapon at his neck, but Don's reflexes are too fast. He catches her wrist, twists it, and brutally beats her to the ground. Hope is crushed. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months, until they reach day 354. Weak, exhausted, and trapped in the dark. Sarah goes into labor and gives birth to a baby girl named Mary. Don enters the bunker later, tossing a supply bag on the floor. Hidden inside the bag is a sharp knife, a sick mind game to see if Sarah will attack him again. Sarah pulls out the knife. She stares at it, then stares at Don. But the fire in her is gone. She drops the knife. She has lost all hope. She just takes the food and goes to feed her newborn baby. 4 years pass in absolute darkness. Sarah becomes pregnant again, while little Mary grows up knowing nothing but concrete walls. Don buys them a small TV to keep them quiet, bringing supplies whenever he feels like it. 7 years later, the bunker holds 3 children. Suddenly, Mary falls critically ill. She is burning up, gasping for air. Sarah begs Don for medicine. When he finally brings it, it does nothing. Sarah screams, "This isn't for kids, she's dying." Don shrugs, "You're the mother. Deal with it." And he walks out. 9 years into the nightmare, Sarah gives birth to another boy, Thomas. The bunker is now a claustrophobic cage. It's too small for 3 growing children. Sarah manipulates Don. "Take Thomas upstairs. Raise him in the real world. There is no room for him here." Don agrees. He takes the infant boy, goes upstairs, and leaves him on his own front doorstep. Next to the baby, Don places a forged letter written by Sarah. It reads, "Mom, this is my son Thomas. I am living with a new boyfriend and don't have time for him. Please raise him. I'll visit when I can." Heartbroken but relieved, the mother takes the baby inside, thinking her daughter is just living a reckless life. But Sarah had hidden a desperate, real note underneath the baby's clothes, begging for rescue and revealing she was trapped beneath their feet. Tragically, Don intercepts the secret note before anyone else can see it. He storms down to the basement and shoves the note back into Sarah's hand as a warning. 14 long years pass. The children grow up in the bunker, and Sarah is pregnant yet again. One day, teenage Mary finds some makeup and puts it on. When she shows her mother, Don enters, stares at the young girl, and grabs her. "You've become so beautiful," he whispers. Sarah loses her mind, ripping Mary away. "Stay away from her. Don't you ever touch her." The kids stare, terrified, not understanding the horror of what Don truly is. Time jumps again. The kids are now 17 years old. It's a brutal winter storm outside. Torrents of rain flood the streets, and suddenly muddy water begins dripping rapidly from the bunker's concrete ceiling. Sarah stares at the leak. "That's it. That's our way out." She spends the entire night frantically clawing and digging at the concrete where the water is seeping through. After hours of agonizing work, she breaks through to street drain cover. She sticks her flashlight through the metal grate, blinking it frantically into the rainy night, praying for a miracle. Up on the street, a man walking his dog sees a strange light flashing from the ground. Mystified, he walks up to Don's house and knocks on the door. Don opens the door. The neighbor points to the ground. "There's a flashing light coming from under your house. It looks like an SOS. Don forces a laugh. "Oh, probably just an electrical short. I'll check it out." The neighbor leaves. Furious, Don storms down to the bunker, grabs a hammer, and violently smashes and seals the drain cover. Sarah, heavily pregnant, is caught in the chaos. The physical trauma is too much, and she miscarries right there on the cold floor. The next day, Don walks into the bunker. On the table sits the tiny, lifeless baby wrapped in a blanket. Sarah sits in dead silence, staring at him. Without a single word, Don picks up the blanket and leaves to bury the evidence. 18 years of captivity pass. The children are now young adults, staring at the locked steel doors. "We want to go out, Mom. What is out there? Why can't we leave?" Don enters and hears them. He snaps, "Going out is up to your mother, not me," and leaves. The children turn to Sarah, demanding answers. The pressure breaks her. She snaps, smashing plates and chairs against the walls. When she calms down, she gathers them around. "You are adults now. You have a right to know." And she tells them the whole horrifying truth from day one. The children are shattered, weeping as they realize their entire existence is a horrific crime. The next day, Don enters the bunker and begins taunting Sarah like he always does. But this time, her son snaps. He lunges at Don, tackling him, screaming curses. Don shoves him off and runs out, slamming the door. To punish them, he cuts the power. Sitting upstairs, Don't Rage turns into pure evil. He decides to kill them all and bury the secret forever. Don grabs a rubber hose, runs it from his car's exhaust pipe straight into the bunker's primary air vent. He starts the engine, sending lethal carbon monoxide pumping into the cells. The family begins to choke, but just then Thomas, the son raised upstairs, walks into the garage. "Hey Dad, what are you doing?" Panicking, Don shuts off the car. He talks to Thomas, calms down, and realizes killing them right now will expose him. He aborts the murder. 20 long years have passed since Sarah was locked away. Mary is now dying. Her lungs are failing and she's gasping for her final breaths. Upstairs, Don is throwing a massive, loud party to celebrate Thomas's high school graduation. The music blasts while Mary suffocates below. When the party finally ends, Don goes downstairs and finds Mary unconscious on the verge of death. Sarah drops to her knees, weeping, begging him. "We have to go to the hospital, please." Don refuses. "No way, it ruins everything." Sarah screams, "This is Thomas's sister, the girl you claim to love. She is dying." Don hesitates. The monster relents. "Fine, but just you and me. You drive the car and you don't say a single word to anyone. Understand?" Sarah nods frantically. "Anything, just save her." Don unlocks the final doors, and for the first time in 2 decades, Sarah steps into the blinding sunlight. They rush Mary to the ER. Doctors sprint her into the ICU. Her heart stops. Flatline. But after agonizing minutes of CPR and shocks, they miraculously bring her back to life. A few minutes later, the ER doctor approaches Sarah and Don, handing them an intake form. "I need the girl's medical history and identification details." Before Sarah can touch the paper, Don snatches it out of the doctor's hand. "I'll fill it out." The doctor senses something incredibly off about Don's controlling behavior, but she has to run back to her patients. While Don is distracted filling out the paperwork, Sarah takes a pen and secretly signs the bottom of the form with a hidden watermark and a desperate SOS message. Don finishes, tells Sarah, "Stay right here. Do not move an inch," and walks away to hand it in. The second Don turns the corner, Sarah bolts. She runs through the chaotic hospital corridors, frantically searching for the doctor. She spots her down the hall and quickens her pace. But Don looks back, sees the empty chair, and spots Sarah running. His face pales. He sprints through the hospital, pushing people aside, desperate to catch her before she opens her mouth. But he's too late. Sarah lunges forward, grabs the doctor, and spills the entire 20-year horror story in a frantic scream. A police officer standing nearby hears everything. Don stops dead in his tracks. His cover is blown. He turns and bolts for the exit, but the officer tackles him to the floor, slamming cuffs on his wrists. The monster is finally caught. Police cruisers rush to the house. Officers smash open the hidden basement doors and descend into the bunker, confirming every single horror. They rescue Sarah's remaining son, who was hours away from suffocating from the sealed vents. Don is locked away in maximum security for the rest of his life. Months later, Sarah and her mother sell the House of Horrors, erasing the memory of that brutal dungeon, and buy a beautiful, sunlit home right by the sea. They are finally free to start over. One afternoon, a motorcycle pulls up. It's Chris. He walks up to Sarah with tears in his eyes. "I am so sorry, Sarah. I should have looked harder. I believed his lies." Sarah stares at him, shocked to realize he never married. He spent 20 years waiting for her. Chris smiles, holding her hand. We have a lot of lost time to make up for. Let's start a new life. The movie ends here, but remember, this isn't just a movie. This is the chilling true story of the 2008 Austrian Fritzl case, one of the most notorious crimes against humanity in history. If this story gripped you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for the next recap.